Welcome, family. Welcome, family.
What's up?
Y'all real quiet tonight.
What's up, AB3? What's up?
There we go.
Good, AB?
That's
Good,
Bilal
family?
bringing the energy,
What's
huh?
happening? What's happening?
Let's go.
What's good? What's good?
What's up, everybody?
Going on?
Goody. What's goody?
I know y'all hate when players come to practice.
Did somebody say energy? Somebody
Yeah.
say energy?
There we go, Memphis.
What's
there we
up,
go.
baby? Let's turn up.
Let's go, man. We
as,
only
soon
do
as,
this.
as soon as my Hawks catch back up, I'll be pumped up.
Well, you might be out of there for the night.
You're probably right.
It looked like they injured a little bit, and it looked like them boys ready to go tonight. But no, it's great to see everybody. Welcome to Be Ready, family number 53. My wife said, "All right, you want to say hello to the people?" She's camera shy. But welcome. Tonight we have a topic that we all are learning together, and we actually have a Be Ready family member wife that's going to help us. I'm going to say she's an expert from the information that I've been told. Miss Jackie she's gonna help us, and then if any questions, I know we've been talking about it for months, and we even had more meetings today about it. And so I'm sure it's going to be ongoing and we'll all learn together. But as you all know, we are on YouTube Live. So whatever you say, just know that we're on YouTube Live. So I just want to remind everybody, and for the people that's new, but we'll let Jackie talk first. And give us some insight on the information that she have. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask her, and then we'll kind of talk as a group and kind of help one another learn some about the NIL. Without further ado, Miss Jackie.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. And thanks for having me here today. My husband, Christian, I feel like hops on this religiously, and I know that it means a lot to him. So I appreciate you guys creating a little bit of space for me. A little bit of background so I can add some legitimacy to perhaps the role that I play within this space. So I am lead strategy for an influencer marketing agency called August United. We were one of the first influencer marketing agencies out there, listed in the top 10 globally, one of Adweek's fastest growing agencies, and we help national brands really establish influencer marketing partnerships, which is very similar to the terrain we're talking in here today, name, image, likeness. And so the perspective that I can bring to today's conversation is not going to be in legalities. It will not come from the perspective necessarily of the talent or the talent agency, but what I can absolutely provide is an overarching perspective of the industry and where it's been, and how, yes, this is new terrain from a college athlete, student athlete perspective, but it certainly has been a place that people have been participating in since the day of quote unquote blogger relations or mommy bloggers, or even how, I don't even know what your relationship is with the word influencer. You might be thinking it's like a white girl with long locks on a travel destination vacation pre-pandemic. I don't know what that association is, but what I can tell you is it's a very powerful place. It is a place where money continues to be funneled into. And while marketing budgets from a brand side do not continue to grow, what I can tell you is the influencer marketing industry continues to grow. Just in 2020 alone, being a $20 billion industry. Pair that with sports, I can only imagine the opportunity size and why this is such an incredible topic today. So what I want to unpack is I can provide a point of view on what brands are looking for, can provide a point of view of where I see, based off of what we're looking for on the brand's behalf, where we see talent miss. And then from the perspective, what I believe you guys can be considering outside of rules and guidelines to support your student athlete, because at the end of the day, we want them to show up as a whole person on the court, in the classroom, and whether they see themselves as a creator or they see themselves as someone that wants to enter into the world of entrepreneurship, how might we support them so that they can do all of those successfully versus fragmenting out. And then from there, however you want to run the rest of the day, I'm happy to take questions as we come. And if there are not specific questions I can answer, I'm happy to take those back to the subject matter experts I work with each and every day. So with that, I think the place I'll start is what brands are looking for. And when we go into partnerships, typically a brand will come to us with a brand building initiative, a new product launch, wanting to insert themselves into culture in a new way. So yes, they'll say, hey, I want to grow my sales, but more importantly, they're wanting to change a perception, reinforce a position, or change a behavior. And when we partner with a name, image, likeness, the things we're looking for are values alignment. It's not just about the highlights on the court. It's not just about the new lift that they're able to do. It's about the whole story, the whole package, the way they show up. Even when we look at the professional athletes we partner with on campaigns, typically it's, hey, I love how he shows up on the court. He's incredible at his craft, but I also love how he shows behind the scenes of how he's a dad. That seems like a perfect alignment for us to partner on a laundry detergent or a video around Dial soap. Another piece that we look for, number 2, is trust and authenticity. Is this someone that when they share something or talk about something, it's believable? So I think in this name, image, likeness space, as we look at brands engaging with student athletes, that relationship is only going to really happen if it's a believable partnership, or if there's something of substance to hold on to there. I think right now, just even watching the day unfold, watching the news, from my perspective, there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of, oh, it feels so good to be recognized and for someone to offer me a deal. And I'm all right there, but I think those deals are going to come and they're going to be around for a while. And so I say, be a little choosy, be a little slow to make some of those calls, because at the end of the day, one of the things that brands look for as well is what is that content, or what is that ratio of sponsorship. So if you can only have a few, if you're only going to have a certain number that are going to take up your time, your energy, your commitments, just like we make other selections, what you say no to is just as important, if not more important sometimes, to what you say yes to. So I think as we look at it from a brand perspective, and as student athletes enter into this space, just want you guys to have a little bit of a taste of what we're looking for from that standpoint. The other pieces that I'll play off of is that I see coming into the future here is getting down into the actual deals themselves. So a lot of times, I was just watching a video recording today of 2 wonderful ladies who locked in a deal, and the reporter said, hey, tell me about that deal. And tell me, did you read the contract? And there wasn't much discussion there. It was like, we're just so excited for this offer. And there's a couple things that I think are, I'll say there's about 6 things I would say to pay attention to when looking at those. The first off is usage rights. So into perpetuity is something that we say. A lot of times, new influencers, new creators, new folks entering into the space will sign a dotted line without reading the fine print that says, I can use your name, image, and likeness for as long as forever. And that is something that come 3 years from now, as that person develops in who they are as a parent, who they are as a person, who they are as an athlete, that might not be a brand that they want to be associated with long term. So we like to say, pay attention to the usage rights. And that's also important because of another term that we see pop up in contracts, which is exclusivity. So something that the brands that I work with love to get is exclusivity. If you can imagine the realm of, let's say, just sports, right? Adidas versus Nike, Under Armour, like knowing who you're partnering with, likely that brand will want to close other brands out of the marketplace. And it's something to consider down the road. Many of these things I'm talking about today being something that feels good in the short term, but might have long-term implications from a total growth standpoint. The other pieces being content requirements and deliverables, timelines. Once you enter into this name, image, likeness space, there's like actual requirements. You become a business person. You have to show up to the occasion. So beyond school, beyond athletics, those commitments, are you ready for that? Along with FTC compliance, are you disclosing that partnership, payment terms, and even tax implications? So all of that together and looking at the different types of partnerships, whether it be your local restaurant or national deals, or even one of your athletes coming up and developing their own product. If I take a step back and I look at where I feel like this community, knowing how passionate you guys are about your athletes, your student athletes, there's two areas that I feel like have the greatest, that I think might go overlooked quickly in this. One of those is actual mental health support. So Instagram, if you're on that channel, you'll see consistently them talking to creators about how to support those creators because of trolls, because of bullies. I know that athletes, when they're on the playing field, get hammered harder than anybody else. But when you enter into social media or you enter into the endorsement space, it really gets heightened. And so helping them figure out how to cope with that and how to prepare for that and how to show up in a way consistently for that is certainly top of mind. And then the second piece I would say is similar to press training, is really having someone from a brand and marketing advisory perspective on staff, or being part of that staff in an augmented way. These are personal brands that are being developed. They will long live most of these athletes' athletic careers. And I feel there's a huge amount of opportunity, especially for folks at different levels that aren't necessarily D1 or that are in sports that are perhaps considered non-traditional. This is totally a place that people see as a career. Every once in a while, Christian and I will host smaller basketball camps in cities, and we'll ask people, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I will tell you, it used to be, I want to be a professional basketball player. I want to be a professional football player. And I see more and more kids these days saying, I want to be a YouTuber. And the reason that I think people say that is because it's a legitimate career. Content creation is a legitimate career. And I think part of our role, as we think about even the role of college today, is to create that opportunity, to create that space, but also recognize that in this content creation environment, in this endorsement space, that it requires just as much discipline. I work in this space, and I can tell you, I am not someone that's going to write a blog post on a weekly basis, publish a video, share a level of vulnerability online. And it's because it really takes a whole person to show up and do that. So again, those two things I would recommend: mental health support, brand marketing advisorship, just like you would do from a PR perspective. And then the last piece is, in this world, especially as we get into the social media realm, which is probably one of the most natural places for people to enter. Similar to how you guys measure everything, what you measure is what you track. It's how you determine how people get paid or how much time they see on the floor. That's true for us too. And we can look at that and we can determine if that activity is fraudulent. And so people have a tendency, because of how people are paid in this space, based off of followers, based off of engagement, to actually buy fake followers, actually buy fake engagement. And so as people get excited and they enter this space and they want to bolster their number from 10,000 followers or to 1 million followers, I would just caution you, as you guys are getting your teams ready, getting people excited, to not shortchange themselves and to really develop this organically. So all of that being said, Alvin, I could go day to day of what we look for, how we interact with folks. I could take a even bigger step back of, like, let's just talk the industry and how this is impacting you guys right now. But those were some of the key items I wanted to just make sure you guys took away today.
Anybody have any questions so far? I think I'm looking at my notes. I think I had one.
Okay.
If nobody else does.
I have one. Dream Dallas, just the men's basketball coach, to back-to-back champs, North Texas. Question: coaches cannot help with the players, but we can direct them to you, correct? Like, to a service like you, to see if there's any, franchise or stores that want to do business with them that you may solicit for them.
It's a great question. I don't know the legality portion of that, but I will say this: there are multiple places for folks to find deals. There are platforms. The one that was mentioned today specifically for athletes is Icon Source. There's many others where you can actually go and like be prepared to look up deals. Some of those are a lot smaller in size, but then the other route, is soliciting from an influencer talent perspective. So there's talent agencies that represent athletes, represent creators, represent artists that we interface with. A lot of folks when they're first starting out represent themselves, but they miss out on a lot of those other things mentioned, but they want to hold the control of their program. They want to hold the control of their brand. And so I really think it depends on the savviness of the player. If they've been doing content creation for a little while, if they're already reading up on things, they might be better off starting and learning as they go. But if someone's far more established, if you kind of have someone that's already in the limelight, already has a bit of fame and credibility in a broader way, I think it's beneficial to consider bringing them along the journey. And that way, typically my side of the equation, I'm happy to solicit deals, look at them for a brand fit for someone that I represent. But everything I just mentioned earlier, those are going to be the things that I pull to maximize the brand's value as well when we're trying to build those equitable relationships.
One last quick question. Them having a blue check or not, does that affect their marketability?
It doesn't. So the blue check mark is typically given, and it's stated on Instagram and TikTok, when someone is getting confused because a lot of other accounts are spinning up to pretend to be them. And so it authenticates that they are the real person. It does not necessarily mean that they have greater reach or greater awareness. It just says this: if you have an athlete that's being, someone else is stirring up accounts that's saying, hey, no, I'm this person, I'm the official, blah, blah, blah. It creates that, it's an authenticity check. In a lot of ways, even on Instagram, we'll tell folks, hey, like, don't go to a business account, stay as a creator account or stay as a personal account, build the audience more naturally before you even get into blue check marks, unless you're having that type of situation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You mentioned that what the brands are looking for, and I had to change a behavior. What were the other ones that you said? I know values have to align, but you said you had like a cliche. You said change of behavior, change something
Change
else.
of perception, brand perception, or reinforce a position. So what that means is typically, I'll take Dial Soap, for example. So Dial Soap recently just, when you hear Dial Soap, what are the things that you guys think of? This will become my focus group since we're on YouTube Live.
The
Shower oil.
cheapest,
What did you say, Ricky?
the cheapest soap.
The cheapest soap. What else do you guys got?
I like Dow.
Smells good.
Shower, yeah, Dow, yep.
Cool. This is good. Everyone has their opinions. So for them, they just launched a product called Clean and Gentle. And it's gentle on your skin, has these beautiful notes, clear product. But people have different perceptions. Some think they're cheap, some think they're antibacterial. And so when we looked for partners, one of the things we were doing was, who can we partner with to change a perception? So we partnered with dermatologists. We partnered with folks that loved Better For You products, because they are going to be the voices that have authority on that type of topic. They're going to be the people you trust on that topic. And so as your athletes are considering posting, how they show up with their friends and have a good time within reason, depending on brand safety, right? I'm going to be looking at brand safety as one of my, since I represent a lot of national brands, we're going to look at like, what is that whole person? What do they like to eat? What do they like to do? Do they like to dance? Like those sorts of things outside of just those highlight clips are the elements we're looking for. But it all goes back, Alvin, to what I was saying earlier. In the case of Dial, it was change of perception. In another case, I might say, hey, like I represent a QSR brand, let's say Chick-fil-A, they don't have that problem. Let's say Burger King, I want you to buy more chicken sandwiches. Well, how am I going to change that behavior? Who am I going to partner with that's going to get people to think this is the most dope chicken sandwich since the chicken sandwich wars? Well, I'm going to have to think through like, who's the mega TikToker right now that can really bring relevance and actually likes those sorts of things. And so it really comes down to not just the fame and the celebrity and the talent of the player. I think that's what gets you originally noticed. But then it comes down into some of these niche audiences, these unique elements of the personality of the partner we're looking for to partner with.
So with your, I know this is just your, this kind of hard, this to be just your opinion, but as coaches, like how much would playing time matter for brands, or would it be more just the followers that they have online?
Depends on the player or depends on the brand. So what I'll say like that about that, if I am a sports performance brand, let's say I'm Gatorade, the time on the court might actually matter because I might want to talk about how my product shows up for you. And I might want to tie myself to that type of endorsement. I think in a lot of ways, brands are looking for a way to reach their audience beyond paid media. So beyond spending advertising dollars and not being able to do that on their own, they're looking to reach people in new ways. And I think that's what is interesting about this space, because there's so many brands. Even look at Dr. Pepper. They spend so much money in the collegiate space. All they want to do is access that audience on a consistent basis. And so I do think the audience in some capacity, and not just the audience for one day, but that audience that's engaged consistently, at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. And it's even something when I consider my college athletes, or I would say professional athletes, we're going through and we're not just looking at them. Sometimes you can say, yes, this celebrity endorsement is worth it to us because it allows for us to tell this particular story. But I think the greater opportunity for the student athlete is in some of those other opportunities, which is tied more to their audience and the story that they tell.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a quick question. Can you hear me correctly?
Yes.
Properly? My name is Bilal Batley with the University of Houston. When you first started, you said when you're auditing opportunities or 6 line items you look at. Can you review that again, please?
Yeah, let's pull it up. Luckily, I have my notes in front of me today. So there's a couple things that I would look for when looking at opportunities. And are you referring to the contract terms or what the brands are looking for?
Contract terms like usage rights, contact deliverables, time. But if you can expand on that.
All right, perfect. So usage rights, typically what we'll see in the industry is what I love to ask for is a brand, what the talent side to receive is into usage into perpetuity. So this means that, and I'm not a lawyer, so take this for what it's worth and put an asterisk on it 3 times. The actual content lives with your player, but the rights for the brand to use it into perpetuity means that we can use it forever. So if that player takes a photo or takes a video and it's within that contract, I can use that 20 years from now, is essentially what that means. A lot of times, yeah, go ahead.
However, if the language states that this is the terms of usage are defined,
yes,
then they cannot use those rights forever, correct? Only for the terms of agreement states the terms of duration of the service or the rights of imagery or whatever it may be.
Exactly. So that's why you want to write it in 60 days usage, 1 year usage, 2 years usage, given depending on what that partnership is, because that could impact the athlete in that way.
Okay.
Yeah. And then that goes back, I think, to build on what you're sharing, the exclusivity portion of this. We'll have some brands that say, hey, I want a year's worth of exclusivity. I don't want you working with any other brand in my category.
Okay.
And so if you're in a certain category, that could be a blackout from an opportunity standpoint. So that's another area you can negotiate on. You might say, hey, no, that's not going to work for me. I can do 90 days and part of it is purposeful from an authenticity standpoint. So if you say, hey, my favorite toilet paper is Charmin, and then 2 days later post and say, my favorite toilet paper is like the Costco off brand, like that's not going to be consistent and your audience is not going to believe you and you're going to become someone that people don't trust for information. And so there's a benefit for both the brand and the student athlete or creator to have a little bit of that defined for protection, but there's certain times where we push a little bit further because it's a competitive advantage to have that partnership in place.
Right. So usage rights was the first point. The second was content deliverables.
Exclusivity.
Okay, so that's the second point. I got it.
Mm-hmm.
What was the third point?
Third point is the content requirements / deliverables. So depending on the channels and I'm obviously getting very heavy into the social media realm. So we're not even
Yeah.
talking like R&D or like just full on endorsements or product endorsements. But a lot of times we'll create a list of things that we expect from the creator. We want this number of Instagram posts. We want
Sure.
this type of YouTube video. We want this many story frames. They need to go out on this date. And what I find, even in a realm that we've been working, our agency's been around for 5 years now. Even for folks that do that for a living, it's still hard to deliver all of that on time. Because if you can imagine the project management that goes into the creation of the content, the collaboration with the brand, the editing of that content, and then the delivery of that content on time that's within the brand standard. Some brands, if you're going pretty local, probably don't have the same restraints. But as you get nationally, there's a lot of back and forth with even the legal teams on the brand side where they want to see that content and want to weigh in on that content. So those are just things to be aware of, as it becomes not only a checklist along with a creative brief, along with yeses and nos of what you can and cannot do. And it really requires, I think, a mature individual to be able to step up to the plate and say, I'm not just creating content for fun. I'm creating content in a way that I want to make money from it, are two very different things.
Right.
And then I had FTC compliance, so Federal Trade Commission compliance. You have to make someone aware when you are being compensated for a sponsorship. And so making sure that people are aware of that is a critical component. When you're working with an influencer marketing agency, it's something we check for and we make sure that's in place. But normally you'll see this show up with #ad, or at the beginning of a video, I'm partnering with so-and-so. But it's just something to make sure that if your student athlete is entering into an agreement right now, they're really exciting and people are talking about them. But when you get into the day-to-day content, it's something that people can miss really quickly.
Explain that to me. When you said the athlete has to let someone know, what is someone? Is that anyone specific,
Their
or has
audience,
to be
whoever
public knowledge?
public knowledge. So when you are, let's say I'm posting my Instagram feed, right? I'm like dropping a video in there. In the caption or in that story, I need to make it clear that this is a partnership that I've been compensated for. Because if not, you're trusting me that this is my original recommendation. But if I am paying for that, or I'm paying you for it, there's going to be some sort of bias tied into that partnership. And so it's important to let people know that it is a paid partnership.
So give me an example.
Example.
I apologize for taking up so much time.
No,
What
this
will
is
be some of the word? What will be some of the word usage to
literally-
let people know?
Yeah. So language would be, hey, the hashtag, you would literally put the words #ad on that, or #sponsored. Or you would start the video saying, I'm talking to my audience on my Instagram story. I'm behind the scenes at my local Target. Hey guys, I'm here today. I'm working with a laundry brand. I'm working with Arm & Hammer over here. And we're collaborating together. They had me come out here today to show you what this product is like.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then the other pieces on that, I want to make sure I get you all the elements. So the other one is, I'm like giving you all my secrets, and now I'm going to go try to like build a deal with you, and my team's going to be super mad. Payment terms. So payment, a lot of times especially as you get into bigger brands, will not pay you until 30 or 60 days after you post the content. And so it's kind of one of those things where that contract's important, and knowing when you get paid and following up to make sure when you get paid are other elements of the deal. And so you got to pay attention to those payment terms as well. They could go further out. They could go 60, they could go 90. In most cases, we're paying just for the exchange of the deliverable and the reach that you get of the audience when you post. There's other setups. You guys might see ads a lot for like Amazon influencers. In that case, it's what we call it more of an ambassador approach, with every time they share their link or share a code and there's a sale on that product, that there's a benefit or a payback to that influencer for that share. We call those affiliate links, but in most cases, these contracts are on that deliverable basis.
Right.
And then the last piece I just like to call out is depending on how much money is coming in and all sorts of things, are just like to note that there's tax implications to just be aware of. I'm no expert on that.
Is there, yeah, and is there a, and this might be out of your area, I say it respectfully, is there a benchmark, a watermark that when you go over this certain threshold, now all of a sudden, they're reaching a level of, hey, they have to pay taxes or X amount of percentage of taxes, but if they're below it, they don't?
I don't know the
I know
answer.
that's a counting question.
Yeah, there is definitely a threshold I know of if you do a certain amount of work with an individual company that you have to make note of as it relates to like running a sole proprietorship and
Sure.
what those tax implications are based off of the income that they create. I'm not particularly an expert.
Okay, no, this is really helpful. I appreciate it. Apologize everyone for taking so much time. But thank you so
Good,
much.
bro. You asking questions that we all thinking of our head. So
I have a question. Sean Tucker, Salisbury men's basketball. Is there brands or is there a situation that we want to talk to our student athletes about staying away from? I mean, because there's a lot of things,
This is
Oh,
such a
goodness.
good question. So I will tell you this. I am a person that lives off of my values, and I am a person that within my organization, we try each and every day to live into our values. And that comes even with the clients and the brands that we work with, right? Like the brands that we want to work with need to reflect the way that we show up in the world. And there is just in every space, there is the dark web, there is the light and sunny side of the world. And who you partner with needs to really be a reflection of yourselves and I also of the creator. And I think it's also something to have a conversation with as it relates to the university and what their university represents. I don't know how much that can be dictated, but when it comes down to brands, know that the brands you partner with today impact the offers and deals you get tomorrow. And so you're branding yourself in the types of partnerships you take. And so if you don't want to be associated, if you want to be working with a laundry brand, I probably wouldn't recommend doing a lingerie brand showing your full self the week before you want to get that deal. Or I wouldn't maybe not choose a marijuana company if you're trying to be positioned as a family brand. That's obviously changing in our country as perceptions and things shift. We see a lot of CBD. We see a lot of energy drinks. There's a lot of there is mattresses. Everything under the sun can be marketed. And I think Sean, the direction I would give to the athlete and the student is they hold the power. They hold the power in who they want to partner with and the narrative that they want to create. And that comes down to who they partner with too. And just because one offer comes in the door doesn't mean they have to say yes, because it means others will too. And I'd rather them be picky and go after who they want to be with or partner with. In fact, there's been a lot of influencers, creators that went out of their way to share about one of the products that's on one of the brands that's on my roster. And we noticed, they tagged us, they said, I love this thing. And we were like, perfect. This is authentic. They already love us. Like, let's go do a deal with them. And so I would say just because it's possible, just because it's available now, doesn't mean you should get thirsty, for lack of a better word.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have two questions. So the first question is, how important is it for kids? Like, I think now the way the kids, they post, but then they delete. Like, so how important is it to keep your post so the brands could get to know you? And then more importantly, how is it important to not have their page private compared to having their page public?
Oh, two really good questions. So I think I'll take it from one way and then I'll bring it back. So no matter what you post to the internet, once it goes on the internet, it is on the internet, even if you delete it. I mean, you could even take you could take Chrissy Teigen, right? Posted something, deleted it. 7 years later, people are coming back and it's destroyed her brand in a matter of minutes. And so that wasn't the question you were asking, but I just want us to be conscious of, like, once it goes online, it's there and it stays there in its beautifulness or in its disaster state for the rest of your personal branding history. With the deleting, not deleting, private versus not, I really think it depends on what the goals are of that player, student, creator. If that creator wants to create a public image, I think you need to pause and say, what type of image, what type of brand do you want to create, and how much vulnerability do you want to share? Brands will likely not want to necessarily engage with just a private account because they're going to want to see it. They're going to want to see that engagement. They're going to want to be part of that experience. But I don't think it needs to be something people jump into right away. Even for myself, working in an industry that's extremely public, there are only certain platforms that I have set up as public. So my Twitter's public, my Pinterest is public, my YouTube's public, but for the most part, my Instagram, I see that as a place that I love to cultivate time with the people I love, and I love to share in very private stories in a lot of depth. And I think it depends on what channels they're using. TikTok, all day, every day, I'll show off my horrible dance moves. I think it's hilarious. I think it's a fun place to show up. And from that regard, I think it just goes back to what are their goals? Who do they want to attract? And in general, I'll say this too. If an athlete wants to become a serious content creator, they're going to want to go on more than one channel. I don't know if any of you guys remember Vine. If you do, Vine, rest in peace. Like, it's literally a channel that was here today, gone tomorrow. And having a diversity of where you show up, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, allows for you to develop that portfolio out, as well as meet a lot of different audiences in different places. So Alvin, I expanded on your question tenfold, and I apologize if it didn't actually answer the question you had.
No, they did. Thank you.
Jackie, Corey Irvin from Illinois. A quick question. So if it's better for them to have the diverse market, so say Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, should they be focusing on the same content in all of those outlets or different content?
It's a good question. I would say in general, it's good to build towards the channel that it's designed for. There's some replay or repurposing that can exist, let's say, between Instagram Reels and TikTok, because Instagram's trying to take TikTok down and is basically matching that. You can take tweets, take a screenshot, turn them into an IDP post on your Instagram feed. And so I think there's some smart ways to make the content creation journey not as heavy. But at the same time, if you're going on to TikTok and you're going to try to post an in-feed static image, you're not going to go very far. So I think there's a nuance of, hey, show up to the channel the way that people want to interact with you. And there might be one that that the player doubles down on. So if someone loves having fun, loves showing their authentic selves, doesn't want to clean up their bedroom or their dorm room or whatever it might be, TikTok's probably the place for them to be. If they want it to be a little bit of a highlight reel paired with a little bit of behind the scenes, maybe it's Instagram. So they might start on one channel and build out. I just like to not place my bets all in one place, knowing that at the end of the day, it's the algorithm that has a lot of that control.
Any more questions? Take advantage of it, having the expert on here.
Hi, how you doing? This is Omar Gonzalez with Texas A&M Kingsville.
Hi.
So, paint a scenario for you here. Social media, TikTok, everything is one-hit wonders. Like Addison Rae didn't become Addison Rae until something happened. So let's just say average Joe or Jane makes a video, not meaning to, becomes viral. All of a sudden, contracts companies, everything starts hitting them without meaning to become this person. So at that point, without your guidance or company or anything, PR personnel, what advice or how do they, or we as coaches, if they come to us saying, Coach, I have no idea what to do with this, and we're obviously not qualified to be in those scenarios. So how would you handle that in the scenario if you were us?
So here's what I'll say. There's a couple things that happen in that moment. One is, with all the virality in the world comes all the trolls also in the world, which is why I mentioned the mental health piece earlier. When someone strikes virality, I mean, there's not a brand that doesn't ask me, make me go viral. I'm like, if only it was that easy. But the moment that happens, there's a lot that happens. They end up going from being, hey, I'm in my safe space with my people that I love connecting with, to I am now on a public stage. And in some ways, I think they're going to be, the first impact of that is more going to be on the people that are interacting with them. I've heard folks go viral on TikTok and their phones literally have to be shut off because they had notifications set up and it wouldn't stop. And so I think it's just calming down from the storm. And then 2, determining what's your next move. So what are you going to do with that virality? Some folks, it's like one and done and they're out. Others are like, hey, I want to use this platform for good. I want to do something. What's my next video? What's my next piece of content going to be? How do I acknowledge this moment? And depending on the platform, it might literally be here today, gone tomorrow. Brands, for the most part, want to see a little bit of consistency. I can tell you with the algorithm on TikTok, it's like you could hit 1 million one day and then have another that only hits about 100,000 or 1,000. And so depending on the platform, I don't know that it'll be that they have brand deals rushing in all at once, depending on the type of content. But I do think coming alongside them and checking in on them as a human is step 1. And then step 2 is helping them come up with a plan of, well, what do you want to do with this opportunity? And shaping it and talking about it as an opportunity that they can create something with. And if it's something that excites them, awesome, lean in. And if it's something they want nothing to do with, then perhaps talk about how do they create the boundaries for themselves where they can still engage, but also feel the confidence and the security that they want to have online.
I'm gonna take a page out of Bilal's book. I'm gonna ask 2 more questions while I got the mic.
Okay.
But part 2 would be us as schools and campuses. We do SIDs, marketing. We have to market our players through recruiting, that's part of our job as coaches too. So within our own program, and this is part of, I guess, me trying to learn the knowledge of us promoting and putting videos and making stuff about our own kids. How does that help, hurt, affect, let's say if they don't have a deal, but then the video that they make within our own school, like just a cool, quick little gimmick video that goes crazy, how does that help, hurt them? How can they use those type of scenarios?
Oh, it's such a good question. I think there's a lot of good that can come from it. Again, I haven't read enough into the legality side of like what the school is responsible for or not responsible for. So take that for what it's worth. But there is a power in not just in one individual brand, but in the collective of many. And I think there's a lot to be said about falling in love with a team as much as falling in love with a player. I mean, I get hyped when I see the end of locker room celebrations that are just goofy or someone showing off their personal style. And so I do think there's some fun that can come from some of that. And I think the role of marketing the organization and marketing the brand of the school, there is a mutual benefit that happens just as the schools have benefited from athletes for the last 100+ years. So I think that's something that you guys, what I would look at it from is have an innovator's mindset and say, let's test some things and learn some things. And I think building a relationship between, if it's not already strong, the social media within the athletic department, that team and the players is something absolutely to unpack. I think back in the day, Shaq and the Suns, like that was something Shaq did so well. Shaq built up his own voice, and he was extremely powerful. And I don't think the Suns really harnessed that like they could have if they would have come together as one.
And the last question, we're a sport of action-packed and could have highlight reels and ESPN top 10 moments, and with a click of a button, a video of AB3's kid or somebody's kid can just hit the internet like this. And it can be, it's one of those things that it can be a clip that goes nonstop. How does a kid benefit from that, hurt from that? What can they do with that type of quick moment of fame?
So good. So let me take a different example. When KFC typically launches a product, what I've noticed about them is they will do something absolutely obscure. They'll come out with the crazy sock. They'll come out with the fire log that smells like chicken, and then they drop their sandwich. And I think in a similar way, when you look at an athlete, that highlight moment, if that's going around, that's a moment to produce content to showcase who they are as a player and to build around it, because they have a broader audience paying attention to them. So if they want to double down in the sport, go for it, get attention. But I also think, Omar, that's an opportunity for them to share a behind the scenes moment of something they really care about in life, or showing a good time with the people that matter to them, because that's going to show the holistic human that's behind that play. Now, that being said, if they don't want that type of attention, again, like, material draws all types of people in. It's a decision to make. But my perspective is, if you have a moment where you're getting a ton of reach, that's a time when you want to be posting consistently and drawing people into your story, to keep them engaged.
And I agree with you 100%. And I guess, like, let's say there's a Twitter page and there's a company called Overtime, and Overtime is really popular. Ball is Life. These are really big companies that find basketball clips and post that. So at that point, if the kid doesn't want to be on that or is on that consistently, can they reach out to Overtime and say, hey, don't use my content unless?
Oh, that's interesting. I honestly don't know the answer to that. I don't know. I think it depends on the rights that Overdrive has to that content. If Overdrive has the rights to that content, then I don't think there's much that they can do, especially if someone's resharing. I would say, from the standpoint of repurposing someone's content without consent on a social platform, it's typically seen as taboo, and it's typically seen as like not ideal. But in the sports world, it's so popular to just reshare that it gets a little bit weird. I mean, ESPN on TikTok, if you guys follow them at all, all it is user generated content approvals. They're just saying, hey, can I use your video? Can I use your video?
Right.
If your player is not comfortable with that, whether they're managing their channel or they have someone else managing their channel on their behalf, I always think it's best to reach out and be like, hey, I would really appreciate you taking this down. It's not something that I want happening. But again, it depends on who owns the content. And I would assume that in a certain capacity, if something's being filmed, their likeness, their image is being used in some way, from that perspective.
Because for example, I mean, this video right here that's going on YouTube Live, we help AB make money when we share it and get over 5,000 views. So then that money's going into AB's pocket, which we'll be going to hit you up later, man, because now my face is on this too. So I'll need to get my cut of this later.
Did you sign a contract, Omar? What are your terms?
Well, that's what we need to figure out. And so seriously, in those scenarios, like, they're getting nonstop tweets and they're hitting 20,000 retweets and they're hitting 1,500, viewers a day on YouTube. And it's that, I guess that's the point of what this whole thing, the NCAA, I guess, was trying to do. Mm-hmm. But how do you fix that if it's not your content, it's the school recording or it's ESPN recording? Then at that point, where's the fine line in it, I guess, is my question.
It comes down to the contract that's written between the school and the player when they sign up as a student athlete to participate in that terrain. And so I think when it comes to those terms, if I was a student athlete, especially with these changes, I'd be going back through and saying, what did I sign up for again? What is the fine print? How is this used? I'm going to ask for 4 more documents of, wait, can you get me that document you have with I don't know what's possible. I think this would be, Alvin, the next thing I would recommend in this capacity, I would love to connect you guys with someone on the talent management side that's working directly with talent, because they could answer all your questions, Omar, and a few other folks today, probably in even greater detail.
I think that would be good. I don't think it's more to my level, but I know Bilal and AB and high level Division Ones and JUCO kids that are, already signed to Division I that are going D2s. I think would be more local companies and not that, the only way I think the way that I was talking about us, we'd be the average Joe that a highlight reel would hit, our school would send it in somewhere. And then all of a sudden we just become viral that way. We're not as big a name as other situations, but I think it would be in those scenarios.
Yeah. Omar, something to consider. I'll say this, when I look at this name, image, likeness space, obviously there's a lot more flexibility when you get into NAIA. There's like little to no rules and those sorts of things. But when I look at this space, I actually think there's going to be opportunity for D1 athletes. No question. But I think for the non-traditional athlete or for the D2 athlete, right, like, there is a lot of space to build out the whole person in a and look for deals outside of sports
No doubt.
are not possible today. And so if you get outside of supplements, you get outside of sports drinks, you get outside of sports equipment, you get outside of that terrain, and you start to step into, like you're talking about, the local restaurant, the local like tourism group, you look at even some of these smaller brands that are trying to drive up their awareness, like there's going to be some really cool stuff in that
Right.
that they didn't have access to before.
I agree with that 100%. I think the creativeness of the kid will now kick into full effect of things that they may have not wanted. And Sean's question I thought was really good, and that was my last one, and I'm done, guys, I promise. But the matching the morals and the rules and regulations of your program to the company's morals, rules, and regulations, because you don't want a kid that we're telling them not to not post this, but this is who we are, this is what we do, and then he turns around and is part of the local late night club promoting and sponsoring there, and it just goes, it doesn't really add up to what we're selling as a company, as a program every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's a big thing, and maybe that's why I turned my camera off, man, because I just need to make sure that my name image is correct until we get all that figured out, man.
Okay, I'll give you a percentage of 0. That's fine.
Appreciate it. I just want the
That's how-
last percentage. I want the bigger half.
That's how much we get paid off this YouTube is 0.
Thanks, Jackie.
No problem.
Yeah, this is interesting times. Student athlete has now added another dynamic with job student athlete or student job athlete or student athlete job. I don't know how.
Yeah, I would say student athlete creator, student athlete personal brand. In a lot of ways, Alan, they've already been building these brands. They just haven't been able to monetize them. A lot of the folks that are going to take the advantage of this in this moment have already been doing the work. They've already been building a discipline around the content creation or around who they are and how they are perceived. It's that they're going to be able to monetize it. And we want to make sure that when they monetize it, it's in a way that allows for them to continue to improve that brand and build that brand versus hinder its growth and hinder its development. And also, I would assume for this group, make it mutually beneficial for the total program as well. And I think that's the distinction that I would make, is the folks that are going to take advantage of it today are already in this space. It's around how do you support them so that they're making the right financial calls. And then from there, yeah, like I think there's going to be a lot of people raising their hands. I see it all the time. People are like, I want to become a creator now. What do I got to do? I can tell you they're going to start, and then they're going to realize it's really freaking hard. Like posting every day, posting twice a week, coming up with something creative and unique. To be a creator and to be creative takes courage, a lot of courage. And your guys as student athletes put out so much courage every time they step on the court, and to find more of that, I think is really, truly impressive. And it's just about figuring out how to support that, because I don't think it's going to be going away. It's kind of like Uber. If we just pretended that the world's still taxis, I think we'll be in trouble. So I think embracing it and seeing it as an opportunity for your student athletes and doing things like you're doing here are probably the most profound things you guys can be doing as coaches right now.
I'm definitely happy for them. They have an opportunity to take advantage of their own business. And, I have a business degree, so I'm happy for them. But I know at the same time, it's, hopefully they don't take it lightly, because you have, like you said, it's a lot of, they have to pay taxes. And I'm sure if they make a certain amount of money, the Pell Grant is going to go down. How much would what they make affect their parents' income taxes?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people even, I don't know if that's, I don't know if a lot of parents still claim their kids while they're in college, but if they do, whatever they make, does that affect their parents' income tax?
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm not an expert there. I'll say this. One of the things that my team discussed is, depending on where the student athlete is in their journey. So knowing that this is available, how soon will people start on their content creation process? Will they start building the brand in high school? Will they start building their brand in middle school? All of those things start to come into play too. And so I think similar to, hey, don't do every travel sport 24/7. Let your kid be a kid. Let them explore life. I think it's a reminder for you in those conversations when someone says, I want to show up in this way, that like, hey, you got a whole life to live. This is a journey, not a sprint. So really take the time to think about where you invest your time, because your time is one of the few things that is not it's finite. We don't know how long it is, but thinking about where you want to invest that. This phone, I can tell you, I track my time because I'm in it for work. I'm on it 6+ hours a day, from a social media perspective, and it's where your student athletes will be too.
Jack, I have a question. You really don't have to go deep into this, but
Mhm.
you know, I'm pretty sure you guys were already talking about this day, you know, as your company and other companies. But how much were you guys like pumping your fists and just really excited about, hey, we're going to target this group and it's going to be that much more money, or it's just like we're more excited, or the kids more excited than you know, the influencers or companies that are
Yeah.
going to be maybe reaching out or
That's a
getting some after?
I think it depends. I would say that I'm probably not as entrepreneurial as I should be, Sean. I probably should have had a talent group, a talent agency set up just for sports, like VaynerMedia did. Like they had a Vayner Sports set up, and they've probably been working on it for the last 3 years. Like that man is a freaking entrepreneurial genius. And he would probably vetted every brand that would want a collegiate athlete before this day even came. So I think some people are ready. We're ready for it. There's a gentleman I was on a panel on a few months ago that I think would be incredible for this group to meet. And he's like, Jackie, this sports thing is going to blow up. He's also in the influencer marketing space, and his focus is entertainment, culture, and sports. And so he's been waiting for this day. He has, I think, a full game plan for it. A lot of the brands that I work with today are in the home space, and we're obviously expanding out from that. So I think we've been a little bit, I think for me, Sean, the thing I think about is a lot of times brands think that the number of creators out there are infinite, but the best creators out there are actually, there's not a ton of them. And so I get excited by the fact that there are now more folks that can tell their story and be recognized for it and actually be compensated for it. That gets me excited. And I also think there are really incredible performance stories that can be told with student athletes. So I think it's a win-win-win in my book. And I'm kind of frustrated that I didn't listen to Christian when we talked about this like 2 years ago when everything started rolling around.
So thank you.
Ricky, I
Hey,
really,
shout out to Christian, man, for allowing his wife to get on here.
what did
I
you say?
agree.
And I said, shout out to Christian to allowing you to get on here. I mean, that's real unselfish in the Be Ready way.
I'll pass that
I
on.
agree. Because he's have to do all the house duties right now. He's not even on.
He always does the house duties. So this is normally his 1 hour away. No, I kid.
That's what Be Ready men do. That's what we do.
Well, thank you guys. And Alvin, if there's any other questions that come up, whether folks didn't want to ask today, or if you guys want to just send them over and curate them, I'm happy to pass those around. And then since this doesn't seem like a topic that's just going to go away, it sounds like there's going to be more dynamics to it. Like I mentioned earlier, happy to introduce some different talent within the space with different perspectives than I do, because I only have one. And there's so many more from different parts of the industry. So let me know how we can further support. You guys mean a lot to our family. So thank you.
Thank you,
Hey,
Jackie.
Jackie.
Yes.
How are you? My name is Johnny Estelle. I'm from Texas University, Kingsville. Why are you smiling, AB3? Can you explain?
Please, but can we put a
I was
disclaimer
promised-
on whatever he's about to say? We put a disclaimer on it before he says it.
I want you to explain. I don't have a business degree like AB3, but royalties. I've taken the AB3 brand with the Blue Angels and almost died. I've taken it to Puerto Rico on the beach with my Be Ready shirt. I'm about to go to Yellowstone and fight a bear with my Be Ready shirt on. Can I get paid for that?
Do you have a contract?
Well, AB, we got a gentleman's agreement handshake. Is that good?
I don't know. It sounds like there's a lot going on in this group that needs to be worked out in terms of name, image, likeness, and brand work going on here.
I'm just saying. No, you did a phenomenal job. This is an area that, I'm really don't have much understanding of. But I really appreciate you doing this, because every little bit that we educate ourselves, I mean, this is the new athletics. I mean, this is the future. So I really appreciate you doing this. This is really good. Thanks, AB3. But we'll talk off camera.
Thank you, Jackie. We really appreciate you taking the time out to educate us. It helped us tremendously. So if we have any questions, we'll definitely bother Christian to get the answers from him through you. So
Sounds good. You guys have a lovely night.
all right, you too.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right, anybody else? I mean, we're still on
It is-
YouTube Live.
Oh.
Let me click off of YouTube Live first, and then we can continue the discussion. So YouTube Live, thank you for your time. Hopefully you enjoyed the information from Miss Jackie. She's with August United Company. Very knowledgeable about her job, very knowledgeable about brands, and